Hi, guys, and welcome to or welcome back to My Verbal Journal, where we talk about wellness in all aspects of our lives from mental health to nutrition and fitness to life as a 20 something and just simple chit chat. I'm Macy, your host, and welcome to what goes on in my head. So, thanks for tuning in this week. We're back on video. If you're watching this, hello. You can watch this on Spotify or YouTube, or if you're just listening, welcome. And yeah, so I'm just sitting here in my college room sipping on my Georgie. This is I believe, tropical punch flavor. I like this one and the sparkling watermelon the best. And then the new orange twist, like special edition one that came out, is also really fucking good. Highly recommend if you're looking for a new energy drink, looking to step away from Celsius, checking out Georgie, Gorgie. You can get them at Sprouts or on Amazon. I think they're in Target now. I don't know. They're growing, so slay for them. But anyways, let's get into the episode. We're going to start off with some things I've been loving lately and then get into an unpopular opinion that I have. So, the first thing I've been loving lately, I guess this is kind of cliche and obvious, but pumpkin spice. I love fall time because it's truly the season of pumpkin, and I wish that it lasted all year because I love everything pumpkin flavored. Pumpkin scents, pumpkin food, like just and the overall vibe of just like decorating with pumpkin, I don't know, something about it just hits every single year. And I think that pumpkin puree is such an underrated baking ingredient because it provides so much moisture. It's kind of like bananas in baking, and it just like improves the texture of baked goods so much. So yeah, I've been trying out some pumpkin protein muffin recipes, and then I've been making a pumpkin cheesecake ninja creamy that is to die for. So let me know if you guys want those recipes posted. The other day, I was searching for gluten-free protein pumpkin muffin recipes, and I just like couldn't find any that I liked. So I decided to just kind of make my own. And I expected it to fail miserably because baking is such like a science. You need like the exact amounts of the right ingredients to balance out the texture and whether it's going to rise and all of that jazz. But they turned out so well. I was like shocked. However, I don't actually remember how much of everything I put into them because I was literally just like measuring with my heart until the texture came out how I wanted it. So I'll have to remake them and actually measure this time, but I basically just used a can of pumpkin puree, one of the Chobani pumpkin spice Greek yogurt, like one of the single serve ones, and then I used vanilla, some almond milk, pumpkin spice protein powder from Truvani, actual pumpkin spice, cinnamon, um, 2 eggs, some baking soda, some baking powder. I don't even know what else I put in there. Oh, pumpkin chocolate chips from the brand Lily's. So good. So yeah, I'll have to remake them and actually like write out an actual recipe. But the second thing that I've been loving lately is The Blacklist, which is a TV show on Netflix. It's 10 seasons and I'm absolutely obsessed. I can't believe that I'm just now watching it for the first time because if you know me, I'm literally a TV show fanatic. I specifically love older shows that have a lot of seasons with a lot of episodes in each. Like, I hate these new 10 season limited series shows that are coming out, or like how they only come out with like 3 episodes at once or like 2 episodes, then you have to wait. Like it's giving like extended movie vibes, and I just don't like movies. I hate movies. I've talked about that before. But The Blacklist is about an FBI's most wanted criminal who turns himself in and works with like a task force to take down criminals that the FBI hasn't even ever heard of. But he's also like building his criminal empire while working with the FBI. It's so intricate and there are like constant plot twists and it's super, super good. So I highly recommend watching, especially if you're into like criminal, lawyer, prison show vibes. Super good. Constantly plot twists. Um, so yeah. And if you guys ever need TV show recommendations, DM me at Macy Lee Jones or at myverbaljournal.let's chat on Instagram because I have a huge list of recommendations that I just keep on my phone. So yeah, if you need TV show recs, I'm your girl. But now let's get into my unpopular opinion. I don't know if this is that unpopular or not, but I hate the airport so much. Like I dread travel days. Like I love the act like actually traveling and like seeing new places, but the process of traveling, like from packing to driving to the airport to security to the plane to bag pickup and the transportation to your hotel, like it's miserable and it takes up an entire day and I feel like it just wastes my entire day, especially when I'm like flying across time zones and like if you land somewhere that's ahead, so it's like 2 hours later there or something, it's literally brutal. Like the sun's like already down and the whole day is just gone. Another problem with me in traveling is the fact that I'm such an overpacker and I'm always stressed about forgetting something and I always end up bringing way too much, like way too many clothes that I don't need because I can't plan out my outfits. Like I don't know how I'm going to be feeling one day. I don't know what I'm going to want to wear. So I have to bring everything, but then I don't end up wearing half of it. And then I forget like small things that I actually need. And I don't know. It just stresses me out. Some people romanticize the airport and wear cute outfits and have all their luggage packed in a little carry-on that's like so cute and it's just perfect and everything and I respect that. Like I see those girls in the airport and I wish that could be me, but it just is not. I'm showing up in sweats and a sweatshirt with my hair messy, my bags probably falling all over the ground, like my passport in my hand, me trying to like carry my food. It's not a pretty sight. And the entire time my RBF is just plastered to my face. So, yeah. And then I also hate eating at airports and getting food to take on the plane because first of all, you never know what you're going to get. Like most airports lack healthy options. And then especially when it comes to gluten-free stuff. And then if you take food on the plane, it's either cold or soggy by the time you reach 10,000 feet when you can put your tray table down and you're like trying to eat on this little table with like two people super close to you and it's just like not the vibe. And not to mention every time I travel recently, all my flights have been delayed, they've been canceled, or we're like sitting on the runway for an hour before taking off. So I'm sorry, I'm getting heated just like talking about this right now. So before this turns into a 45-minute rant on why I hate travel days, we can go ahead and get into the actual topic of today. All right. So, without further ado, we're going to be talking about discipline and healthy habits today. And then I'm going to mention balance in this episode, but I'm going to do another episode on balance and how it really doesn't exist and how it's different for everyone because I feel like that's such a hot topic. Everyone's like trying to find the perfect balance. So I will do another episode on that. As we get into the thick of the fall season, and for some of you fellow college students, midterms are coming up. It might be getting cold out where you are. Unfortunately for me, it's still hot as hell in Texas. I wish that it was getting cold out because I just want to feel the fall. But anyways, besides the point, we're all tired. Holiday events are starting to pop up and our motivation is going down the drain. And it's super hard to keep up and maintain the habits and the practices in our life that make us better when we're feeling like this. That being said, it's even more important now to continue progressing and to hold yourself accountable so that you can finish the year strong and set yourself up for success going into the new year instead of like feeling like you let everything go and then you're like starting from square one again. Because motivation is fading and we have to resort to discipline if we want to become the best versions of ourselves and reach our goals and finish the year strong. That being said, discipline does not equal suffering. And there's no like secret Krabby Patty formula that's going to give you this like Pinterest, TikTok, day in my balanced life front, so to speak. So let's break down discipline and figure out how we can use it to create our own individualized version of balance and success. So I feel like the word discipline just comes with like this negative connotation in our minds because it's associated with punishment or rigidity. But I actually think discipline can be such a beautiful thing and it can really add a lot of value to our lives. So, the dictionary's definition of self discipline is the ability to control one's feelings and overcome one's weaknesses, the ability to pursue what one thinks is right despite temptations to abandon it. And to be honest, I really don't love this definition. To me, self discipline is simply keeping promises to yourself and holding yourself accountable for things that add value to your life and that allow you to grow into the best version of yourself, despite external circumstances. And building self discipline is kind of like building a muscle. You have to constantly practice and exercise adherence in order to make it stick and for it to become natural. The more often you lift a weight, the easier it becomes, which allows you to then lift an even heavier weight and so on. And keeping promises to yourself and building discipline works the same way. As you continue to keep these promises to yourself and do things that you may not always have motivation to do, but you know they're helping you, it becomes easier and slowly you're able to do more and more. That being said, the dangerous thing is that this is a double-edged sword and it works the same way on the opposite side of the spectrum. So when you are constantly breaking promises to yourself over and over, it becomes even easier to do so the next time and the next time and the next time. So if you think about it, if you've ever tried to build a new habit and stick to it, like let's say you want to read 10 pages a day, you may start off strong and read 10 pages a day for a week, but then you get busy and you convince yourself, oh, one day, it's okay if I just skip one day because I've been doing so well. But then the next day, it's the same thing. Your brain tells you that you were fine with skipping the last day and starts making excuses of why you can't do it today and convinces you that you'll start back up tomorrow. But then all of a sudden you realize you've been halfway through a book for over a year now and you haven't read 10 pages a day consistently in months. So, a lot of people say it takes 21 days of consistency for a habit to truly form. But there have been many studies that have proven it to have a wider range and average around 70 days, depending on the habit and how severe it is. That's kind of like the rationale behind like 75 hard, even though I don't recommend implementing that drastic of changes in that short amount of time or just in general because yeah, I just don't it's not realistic long term. I think we should apply habits that are realistic long term and not implement a ton all at once because ultimately it's going to make us feel like failures. But practicing discipline in any aspect of your life is going to start out being really hard, but eventually it just kind of becomes second nature. And it's the same way with negative habits. The first time you cheat on a test, for example, you may leave feeling guilty and ashamed, but when you don't get caught and you get a good grade, your brain convinces you, oh, that it worked out. That's okay. And it makes it even easier to cheat the next time. And then all of a sudden you don't feel guilty at all because you've become comfortable cheating and your brain is just continuing to validate your actions. But then when you get to the final exam or an exam in your career field that you have to pass, where cheating isn't even an option, you feel this immense weight and you realize that you've been setting yourself up to fail for so long and just taking shortcuts and scraping by when you could have spent that time building positive habits and investing your energy into studying instead of finding shortcuts. And then you would have so much less work to do now because you set yourself up for success the entire way through. But now you have to reteach yourself everything you cheated your way through, and you have like no time to do it. Or maybe like you cheat yourself through Algebra 1 and everything works out, you get a good grade, but now you just made Algebra 2 10 times harder because you didn't understand Algebra 1. So now you have to work even harder in Algebra 2. So, regardless of when you decide to devote your time and effort, the fact remains that you're going to have to do it at some point if you want to reach your goals. Like, you're going to have to learn the algebra if you want to pass. So, instead of fighting with yourself and allowing yourself these constant, like, cop outs and feeling bad about yourself deep down, start making promises to yourself to do what's best for you in the long term and then keep them. Follow up. Tell yourself that one way or another, you're going to have to do the work. And pushing it off or taking the easy road now is only going to cause you more anxiety and just delay the inevitable. When you start to build this trust with yourself, it becomes second nature. And not only are you setting yourself up to reach your goals, but you're also improving your self-efficacy and your confidence along the way, which is going to set you up for successful relationships, success in your career, and just improve your overall well-being. So start treating your commitments to yourself the same as you would your commitments to other people. Because even if you aren't necessarily like, you wouldn't classify yourself as a people pleaser, we all kind of have the innate want for people to like us or have this like fear of letting others down. But too often we don't hold ourselves to these same standards. For example, if you and your friend decide you want to try a new workout class at 6 a.m. and you wake up and you really don't feel like going, you're probably still going to go because you don't want to let your friend down and be considered a flake or just like have someone know that you didn't go because that would make you feel bad about yourself. So it's really great to have people in our lives that help hold us accountable, and we need that, and it's great. Like, if there were no grades in school, we probably wouldn't put in nearly as much effort or work to turn things in on time. But when you start to hold your own promises and commitments to yourself with as much value as you place on your commitments to other people, that's when you truly start to develop discipline and make progress. And you deserve to treat yourself like you would your best friend. By keeping promises to yourself, you're building this like internal trust and altering your neural pathways in a way. Because your brain's voice that makes these excuses and validates your actions is silenced, and you're able to believe in yourself without having this doubt creep in on whether you're going to be able to reach your goal or be who you want to be. And there's so much power that's found when you truly trust yourself, and it becomes one of your greatest assets. And best of all, this is something that is literally completely in your control. Like, so many other people are going to let you down throughout your life, so don't let yourself down too. If you're able to trust yourself, your potential for everything else just skyrockets. But in order to build this discipline or trust with yourself, it's so vital to set realistic goals rather than trying to copy someone else's version of success, because everyone's different. And if you set goals up that are far too extreme or for the wrong reasons, then you're just setting yourself up to fail. Like, when we look at social media and see someone's day in a life video, or what they eat in a day, or what they do in a day, or what they accomplish in a day, or like, and compare what we're doing to that and try to like copy that in a way, that's not being disciplined for the right reasons. You're just doing that because you feel like it's what you have to do and you feel like you're not doing enough. And that can be really dangerous. Like, we focus on being disciplined in aspects that make you feel good and that align with your goals. And be realistic. Someone else's goals may not align with you or may not be realistic for you because everyone's life is so different and you're only seeing what they want you to see. So I think part of this is just human nature. Like we want this instant gratification and we don't want to have to wait to see a change. And then another part of this comes from this unconscious place of like self sabotage. We say we want to achieve something or to be something, but the thought of putting in months or years to something and quote unquote failing, and I put that in quotes because failing isn't really a thing. You either just quit. Like failure is a part of success. You may fail along the way, but ultimate failure is just essentially quitting. And that's something that we don't want to risk. Or sometimes the thought of actually reaching the point of success that we say we want so bad terrifies us in itself because we don't actually know what we'll feel or what we'll do when we get there. Or we fear that once we get there, it still won't even be enough. Or we might even feel that deep down we don't deserve it. And all of these things basically just cause our minds to make excuses and validate reasons for not being disciplined and fulfilling promises to ourselves that we know will ultimately benefit us. Like we know that these promises, if we keep them, they're going to benefit us, but we don't adhere to them and we don't fulfill these promises to ourselves because we're scared of failing or all of these reasons that I just listed. Like it's terrifying to sometimes reach a point because we don't know what's going to happen when we get there, or we think about how others are going to perceive us when we don't reach our goals or even when we do. So before you start chasing after something, it can be super helpful to just take a step back and look at the big picture. Ask yourself why you want to make a specific change. Are you doing it for yourself or are you doing it so other people find you more impressive or worthy? Are you doing it because someone on social media said it's what you should be doing because it's what they do? Are you doing it because it makes you feel good or are you doing it because you feel like you have to? And are you doing it to better yourself or are you doing it to distract yourself? Once you've established your why and determined that whatever you're doing is for the right reasons, you can begin to like make a plan. So first, establish like an end goal or a vision. And this is where you can manifest your wildest dreams and start referring to yourself as that person you want to become. So instead of saying, I hope to or I will, start saying, I am. So if you want to start working out more and you've established your reasoning is because it makes you feel better mentally and you want to live a longer and healthier life, start telling yourself, I am someone who goes to the gym 3 times a week. I am a runner. I am someone who lifts weights. Instead of saying, oh, I'm going to try to start running. I'm going to try to start lifting a couple times a week. Maybe I'll start trying to implement working out. I don't know if it's for me. If you begin to like refer to yourself as what you want to become, then your brain can't just immediately jump to these excuses and the safety net that makes you feel okay with failure in a sense, or like validates you breaking promises to yourself. By believing you are something, it like becomes a part of your identity and you feel a higher sense of responsibility to carry it out. Another thing that can help you keep promises to yourself is to set intentional goals and make a plan ahead of time and write it down on paper. Instead of saying, I'm going to try to run 3 times this week, plan out which days you're going to run, what time you're going to run, how long are you going to run for, and literally write it down. Because if you don't make a plan, it makes it way too easy for you to wake up on Monday and say, oh, I have 6 more days in the week. I don't need to run today. And then this just continues to happen all week, and all of a sudden it's Saturday, and you only ran once, and now your brain is able to convince you that maybe running's just not for me, or I just don't have time to run, or I'll just start running when the new year hits. And so it makes it a lot harder to break promises to yourself when you have an actual plan in place that sets you up to accomplish your goal. Because if everything's in place and everything works out perfectly and you set out that 30 minutes to run, well, what else are you going to do with that time? Like, you can't make the excuse that you didn't have time because you made the time in advance. And then eventually, you just continuously build this trust with yourself and it just becomes second nature. And then running 3 times a week just becomes part of your normal routine and you don't even have to think twice about it. And when you know how good something makes you feel, and staying true to what you told yourself you're going to do, it makes it harder to fall off track because you get used to like fulfilling these promises to yourself and it makes you feel so good that it's not even a question or not whether or not you're going to do it the next time. And then if you do fall off track, you'll notice how bad it feels and how like unnatural it feels in a sense, and it'll just make you want to keep going even more. For me, I think a sense of self-discipline was instilled in me before I even like knew what discipline was. I was a competitive gymnast from age 7 to age 13, and having discipline wasn't an option. It wasn't optional. You either show up and do the work or you get kicked out of the gym or off the team completely. And if you show up to practice late, you have to climb a rope for every minute you're late. If you bend your knee during a routine, that's added conditioning later. We even had to write down our workout and our routines and then have a coach watch us complete each set or each routine and then sign off on our sheet and determine if it was up to par or not before we were able to leave. So this was like my way of life and just became my norm, and I never even questioned it twice. Is this the reason that I should be in therapy now? 100%. But that's besides the point. We were basically just constantly told that cheating our reps is only hurting ourselves and setting ourselves up to fail. So naturally, I just began to hold myself to high expectations in all aspects of my life, with grades, with any competition, any sport, anything. And so I've always been taught that what you do when no one's watching is what really counts. And that's what's going to separate you from other people and allow you to achieve your goals. And I think that some people are able to do less and achieve the same thing that it takes someone else a shit ton of work to do. For example, I'm not someone who can just study the day before a test and like look at the information, soak it in, memorize it, and get good grades. Like, I have to do the most to succeed. Like, I'm grinding for a week before a test. And yeah, I normally get a good grade, but it's because I put in the work. Like, I wish I had the ability to just read over my notes and like understand it, no problem, and like store it in my memory. But I know that's just not how it is for me. But I know what I want and I know what I'm capable of. So I've established these habits to set myself up to reach my potential. And I'm not always motivated, but I know how awful I'll feel if I don't keep promises to myself, and I know how good I'll feel if I do. So, one thing that helps me stay disciplined is by trying to see things for what they are. And this kind of helps me make a daunting task a lot less scary. I have a huge tendency to build things up in my mind and get super overwhelmed to the point where my daily to-do list feels like the weight of solving world hunger. Simple tasks like getting an oil change or filling out a form or responding to an email, like, literally feel like climbing Mount Everest. And the more I push them off, the weight just gets heavier and heavier. So instead of seeing a long list of simple tasks and getting extremely overwhelmed, I take each task and break it down for what it actually is. I establish how much time it's actually going to take me, when it needs to be done, and then I make a plan for when I'm going to do it. So instead of having like one long to-do list, I'll break it down by the day and prioritize things that are more urgent and then allow the not so urgent things to go on my to-do list for the next day or the next week. And this basically just stops that like panic attack spiral moment. I have so much to do. I'm so overwhelmed. Oh my God, how am I going to get all of this done? And instead of like spending time worrying about all of this stuff, I can actually do the things on the list and get it done. And then reframing is another great tool I use to stay disciplined. I try to view things that I know will help me as a privilege rather than a chore or like a punishment. Like, I feel like as people, we're so used to categorizing things or polarizing them to two opposite ends of a spectrum. I mean, look at how polarized our political parties have become. We try to make things so black and white because it's just easier for our brains to understand and comprehend things that way. But in reality, things are rarely ever black and white. Like, it's always in that gray area. So instead of viewing a workout as something you have to do or a punishment, view it as something you get to do. The fact that your body is healthy and able to go exercise is something not everyone has. Not to mention that not everyone has access to a gym or money to pay for a workout class. So yes, I'm not invalidating how you feel. Like, it going to a workout, yeah, like, slay. That shit is hard. And it may be hard and you may not be motivated to go work out at the moment, but think of it as a small fraction of your day or week that it actually is. And then think about how good you'll feel when you're finished, like the mental clarity that you'll have after, the meal you get to eat, like you're going to go cook for yourself when you're done, like how accomplished you'll feel, how it's going to set you up for the rest of your day. All of those rewards, like, think about how much those outweigh the 45 minutes of the actually working out might feel. The same thing goes for like completing an assignment or cooking yourself a meal. Like, these things aren't punishments, they're privileges. The fact that we have the physical ability and resources to make a healthy meal and nourish our bodies properly is such a privilege. The fact that we get to receive an education and a degree is such a privilege that so many people would give anything for. And I have to constantly remind myself to not take things for granted. I complain about things and build them up so much, and in the grand scheme of my life and just life in general, they just don't matter. Like, me complaining about a midterm exam that I have to study for with my little energy drink and my little snack, like, that I made in my college apartment, like, girl, it's a test. You're in school, like, you're going to get a degree and be able to do what you love to do. Like, so many people can't even pay for college and would die to take that test. So, I don't know. Just in general, that's just a good reminder that I have to always constantly give myself. Because by reframing your mindset, you kind of just gain this perspective that allows you to come back to earth and just see things for what they are. And this allows you to then complete tasks and fulfill your promises to yourself because it makes it feel easier and everything just seems to carry less weight. And self-discipline, it's not something that you either have or that you don't have. Like, it's not something that just some people have. Like, I know that everyone has self-discipline, but what people have self-discipline for can vary. For example, having discipline when it comes to my academics, my nutrition, and my fitness has always been super easy for me. But having discipline regarding my emotions and being patient, those are things I've always struggled with. With relationships, it's sometimes really hard for me to communicate with a sense of discipline and not allow my emotions or my reactions to come out in an uncontrolled way. I tend to bury my emotions and let them all out at once when something sets them off. Like, I'll go months and months without crying or even feeling sad or allowing myself to feel sad. And then all of a sudden, I'm having a panic attack and crying for what seems like no reason at the moment. And like I said earlier, if we want to be something or to achieve something, and we know what we have to do to achieve that, it's going to have to be done regardless. So pushing it off is just delaying your progress. So by avoiding my emotions and pushing them down, I'm harming myself and delaying my progress because I'm not getting to the root of the issue or dealing with things as they come. And discipline isn't always pushing yourself to work harder or to do more. A lot of times, discipline means knowing when to take a step back. I know I did a whole episode on this, But for me, having discipline to take a rest day is really, really hard for me. It may sound stupid to some of you, but allowing my body to rest and getting myself not to do a workout is really challenging because my brain is telling me I need to do it. And I mean, I enjoy doing it. I love working out, but my brain is like, you have to work out to be productive, to be a productive human being, to get other things done, to set yourself up for success, to get your, like, breaking that habit and having the discipline to just sit and that's really hard for me. And I also really struggle to have discipline when it comes to asking for help or being patient when I can't solve something. I get super frustrated and try to fix it myself and then end up doing it wrong and having to restart everything, when in reality, I could have just waited, asked for help, and gotten it done in less time and to a higher quality. So never, ever, ever say to yourself, oh, I'm just not disciplined, or I wish I could just be as disciplined as you, because by doing that, you're identifying as someone who doesn't trust yourself. When the reality is, you are disciplined. It may just not be in the conventional career or wellness sense. For example, my brother is super disciplined when it comes to things he cares about. He has stayed up all night working on a project that he cares about. Like, he stayed up all night building a PC from scratch. And, like, I don't even, I wouldn't know where to start. I would be like, someone can build that for me because I would not be able to do that myself. And then he sells and trades shoes. He's on the phone. He's waiting for these shoe drops so he can be the first one to get them. But if you give him a homework assignment that in reality would take him 2 seconds to complete, there's a 99% chance that shit's not getting done on time. So don't write yourself off as a non-disciplined person. Focus on your strengths, acknowledge them, and then look at spaces where you may need to work on developing more self-discipline and make a plan on how you're going to accomplish this. A lot of people use habit tracking as a way to hold themselves accountable because, like I said earlier, writing down your daily habits and crossing it off is super rewarding and it's easier to hold yourself accountable because when you write it down, it just makes it more real. So I know they sell habit tracking notebooks, but you can also just make it on your own by just writing down these non-negotiable things that you want to stick to each day. Like, it might be drinking a certain amount of water, cooking a certain number of meals at home each week, or hitting a step goal, or even things like your skincare routine or remembering to call your parents or your grandparents. Because if I don't write down my to-do list, then all of these tasks are just like swarming through my head and I just get way too overwhelmed and then end up just doing nothing. So as we get into the depths of fall and you're feeling overwhelmed and super busy, you owe it to yourself to keep promises to yourself and to prioritize your own well-being. Because if you don't do it now, it's going to catch up to you later in one way or another. And discipline, it doesn't mean you have to suffer. Being disciplined doesn't mean you have to, it's not like this punishment. It's simply just establishing trust in yourself and building small habits that will help you achieve your bigger goals and figure out what you need to prioritize to find your own version of balance. So celebrate your small wins and acknowledge areas where you are disciplined, and then identify areas where you may need some extra practice. And just remember that you need to start treating yourself and pleasing yourself instead of always focusing on pleasing other people. So many of us tend to pile too much on our plate, me, and it causes us to give all of our energy to others, and then we don't have enough left for ourselves. It's okay to say no to other people when you need to put yourself first, and part of practicing discipline is knowing when to say no or when to take a step back and allow yourself to reset. Sometimes having discipline means stopping the grind that you're in because you know it's not meant for you and starting to invest in changing your career or your area of study to what you actually want to do. Use reframing as a tool to see things that may feel impossible for the simple task and privilege that they really are. Because self-discipline isn't something that only certain people have. You have it. Everyone has it. But whether or not you water it and continue to feed it so it grows is completely up to you. When you're able to trust yourself and you're able to make your goals tangible and reachable without constantly questioning whether or not you're going to be able to stick to it or whether or not you even deserve it, the sky's the limit. So stop waiting around for motivation to hit, because I hate to break it to you, that shit got lost in the mail. The motivation is not coming. So start holding yourself accountable and dig into discipline, because it gets easier the more you do it and eventually just becomes second nature. Nothing that's worthwhile is going to be easy, unfortunate as it is. But the hard work and the constant dedication is what makes it all worth it in the end when you look back. Just know that you are inherently worthy and capable of so much more than you give yourself credit for. Start identifying as a self-disciplined person and explore what happens when you fully trust yourself. That's all I got for today. I love you guys so much. Thank you for listening. Please share this episode with a friend if you found it helpful. Follow the show on Apple and Spotify to get notified when new episodes are released, which happens every other Wednesday. Leave a rating and review, as it helps more people find the show, and I love hearing what y'all think. Follow at Macy Lee Jones, me on Instagram, and then the podcast account at myverbaljournal.let's-chat. And I think that's all. I love you guys so much. Talk to you soon.